full of excitement. But I think it has been quite dusty, if I may say so myself. But perhaps it is my intention, maybe it had to do with where I did most of my academic work. My academic work in Jamaica was not in my PhD, it was when I did my graduate work in Hebrew. So my study was also my job, so I had a job putting the Old Testament text, or correcting the Old Testament text on computer. Work done by 3 universities. So I worked there and I for a long time in the Hebrew text. And that is very rusty and dry. There is not a lot of excitement in that. So there is a carryover every now and then. I believe that real work is like my academic work. It's dusty and dry, slow going. And this is perhaps why I have chosen the way that we have for reflection. But thank you very much for punishing yourself by coming out a third time to listen to my dry and dusty dissertation on moral development. I want to read from Ephesians chapter 6 for today's reflection on the fifth commandment. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you, and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. I try to indicate to you that the 10th commandment was addressed to owners and male owners. So it says, do not covet your neighbor's manservant or maidservant, and anything that belongs to your neighbor. That where the commandments betray the assumption of the writer as to whom he was speaking, it is male power brokers. Also, the case when we looked at the fourth commandment yesterday, that your male servant and your female servant may rest as you do. So it is addressed to people who have servants, not so much to servants. Yes, by inference, the commandment benefits the servant, but it is addressed to the owner. Not so with the fifth commandment. The fifth commandment is the only commandment which is directly addressed to the powerless. Honor your father and your mother. The commandment doesn't say, do not covet your neighbor's husband. So it is not addressed to women. I'm not saying by inference, but the children. But in this fifth commandment, it is addressed not to the parents, but to their children. That's not the only reason, though it is a significant one, that there is a difficulty in identifying this as a commandment. There are two other reasons in a preliminary. One is that it is not stated negatively. There is no negative way to put this commandment So the fourth commandment, which also stated positively, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Then goes on to say, on the seventh day you shall not do any work. Not this command. This is positively stated. And one is not sure if it is our view that this commandment, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God is giving you. Whether that commandment carries the same weight as the sixth commandment, you shall not murder. This one sounds a little less serious than does the sixth commandment. And the third reason, of course, is because it has this little promise, this incentive, or this strategic advice. Obey your parents, or honor your parents, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God is giving you. And I'm never sure why that is. Although as a Jamaican, I think I know why. You know that there is a Jamaican version of the prodigal son. The boy taking father money and run away. And then when he finished, he come back. One neighbor was telling the other neighbor, yes, master, that boy come back. And the neighbor said, yes. But master, keep the family job. The neighbor said, no, but the man must keep the prodigal. So maybe it's advice, because if you don't believe, you will kill you. Or perhaps as we are to take it, you have to read chapter 5 in Deuteronomy, honor your father and mother. Read chapter 6 in Deuteronomy, the things that you hear, teach them to your children. All the way down, it becomes the way in which it goes. And that the presumption is that to honor your parents is to obey all that God is telling you. And therefore the blessings that follow obedience in the book of Deuteronomy will give you a longevity, a viability, and a prosperity. Perhaps that is the way that the writer intends us to understand. But let us accept it as such, that this commandment is a commandment of no less seriousness than any of the other commandments. But I want to put it to you that this commandment is placed where it is in the list of commandments because of the profound importance it represents to the possibility of these moral laws taking a hold in the life of the whole community. What am I saying? This is the fifth commandment. Here is the center of the commandments with the sixth commandment. But it is, you might say, the central commandment. It anticipates what is to follow and is based on what precedes it. So the first four commandments arguably are commandments which have to do with how we love God. And the next 5 are commandments which have to do with how we love our neighbor. And that this commandment is central. What am I saying? It is that it is in the family. It is through the family that moral education and moral development take place and take their home. It is the family. It is a key institution, and this is why it is placed at the very center. So you read this negative, followed by the negative, but at the center it is one. Honor your mother, your father, and your mother in order. Honor your father and your mother. Because it is when you honor your parents, the presumption of the writers, that the rest of what is taught here in the commandments will become part of you and of your life. Now, I have had my reasons. I have my reasons. You are part of my congregation. You will know that I am a deliberate man. So I will say something to you today. But the reason that I said originated 6 months ago. I will wait to say something. And I want to make my own contribution to an undervaluation of marriage and family, which has become known among typical young people in this generation. I have to be in the argument with my children, and I know that I'm not talking to them. I do make a case there that marriage is not an incidental feature of life in the economy of God. It is a key institution. And the floundering, confusion, dissonance, dysfunction, difficulty that we see in the Jamaican society is not unrelated to the lack of faith in a stable family. Too many young persons make a decision to start, to get going, without setting for themselves. Said somebody's calling me over here. Don't know the third job. I wouldn't have it if I could find another one. Trust me. Driving crazy. Especially when I'm driving sometimes on the other side. My sister gave me a Bluetooth. That's why I had to put it up, and she said, promise me you are going to use it. I said, yes, I promise you. But do I have to tell you how often? Okay? She knew me for all of her life. I promise her that like a masquerade. Every time I see it, I think of war. War is that name in Star Trek, warrior. The commandment believed that without family, even words written etched by the finger of God in stone are likely to have very little impact. It is only in the family that the opportunity to nurture the moral sensitivity and sensibility of children really pays off. And this is why this commandment is there. It is of profoundly profound importance and significance to the commandments themselves. Honor your father and your mother is the way to obey the commandment. When you obey this commandment, the anticipation, the mindset, the word of the character is that all the others will follow. That's why it is individual. So let's get to the commandment itself. What is the commandment? I know you're careful Bible readers, so you know that the opening words are contested. Paul in Ephesians says, obey your parents. Children, obey your parents, for this is right. And then it quotes the Deuteronomy and Exodus version. Honor your father and your mother. Today's English version, good news if you call it that, translated respect. And of course, the Hebrew is best rendered honor. So which is it? Is it obey your parents? Is it respect your parents? Is it honor your parents? But I'd like to suggest that it is all three. and that there is an intrusiveness, but it is a staging. It is a staging. So, whether obey, respect, or honor depends on what stage in your life you are. And each is built upon the other. Children who obey their parents will respect their parents. And children who respect their parents will honor their parents. The way I look at it, as a mechanism of parenting, is that early in their life, I would say up to the end of secondary school, at least, it is a child's duty to obey his parents. Now, you know the difficulty with that. I was reading some sermons and comments about this particular passage, and I ran into one man who had a beef with the passage, and he said that his Sunday school teacher told him to obey his parents, and he said, which one? And I hadn't thought about it until that. But you know, mothers and fathers don't always agree. And especially nowadays that women have come increasingly into power, they are taking on the right to conflict their men, even when conflicting their men is not necessary. So a child who obeys his mother, his father can make his mother very angry, you know. So the fellow asks, which one? But in general, there is the uncritical obedience, following the advice and direction of your parents, which is your duty at a certain stage of your life. And I have seen instances, for example, as a pastor, where a child comes to church and says they want to be baptized. And when they go home and tell their parents say, no, you're not baptized. You know that a girl can live with a boy, and the mother don't want to say it, but if she decides to get married, then she go in, she take it serious stuff, you know. And it is alright. If I get married, that's when marriage belongs to a certain stage of it. When you have money, you can buy a house rather than rent one, and so on. So there's a view. And in instances, this kind of thing comes to play. When you are to obey uncritically the advice and the direction of your parents. But as you get older, and you're going to make career decisions, lifestyle decisions about how you're going to play out your thing. There is a demand on to value and make use of the experience and will and sensibility about parents. No, it's not the same as obeying. My mother has come around, not with any great reluctance, but over time, to the idea that I should become a minister of the Christian religion. That was not her initial response. She was quite mindful at the time when I said I was going to seminary of how little income there was in the family. And I had started to earn a job when I was age 30. So her first thing is, man, I'm only already going to that. Go into something that you can, because you have the brains, as they used to say. You can earn something and take us out of poverty. So while I took that on board, to my mind, I had a higher calling. A lower cost, yes, a higher calling. And so while I respected her views, I didn't quite agree. I continued in seminary, felt that she wasn't paying the money. But there is so what I'm saying, that at a stage, the commandment plays out itself in your life in uncritical ways. And believe me, that's a good thing. But when you get married now, you might have to say to your mother and father, this is my church, it's my wife, it's my husband. With the greatest of respect, we come and pray at Christmas. We don't interfere. You know what I mean? By the way, if your mother tells you not to marry, usually you should listen to her because you are your mother in waiting. What she feels today, you will feel tomorrow. So you are listening to her. Not so sure about that. That's what's my truth. Right? You have to listen to me. And critically delay that. Right? But the first stage is obedience. Second is respect. And the third is honor. To honor your parents implies that your life should make them feel proud. Your life should be lived in a manner to save them from embarrassment and shame. And I have heard people say this, me? I'm never going to no. So you don't want it to certain things. You're not going to show people things because you don't want, it's more about the police in your mother, you worry about. And if you don't meet it to that, you not get to that. So, as a minimum, the commandment implies and expects that our lives will be conducted in an honorable manner. We must do things and live in ways that lift up the head of our parents. And I don't know how conscious you are of this, but there is a mistaken view that when I speak like that, I am talking about the degree to which you have items of conspicuous consumerism. That when I say lift up your parents, say that make them feel proud, we are not talking about your car. Because a lot of people now have some cars that is going to turn around and bite them. Because how they got their car, they will remember what they have to pay. And I'm not just talking about the car. I'm not talking about living a life that is conspicuously successful. I'm talking about living a life that has foundations that make people who look on see that you are on a sustainable path to progress and making an enormous impact on the community. And let me say this, not every one of us is going to be tested. We may not all have a night among the stars, but each of us can live in a way which adds value to our stars and make those who have contributed and who are connected proud. I think that's what first and foremost, lift up your parents' head. Let them be proud of how you are living. Not just that you are living, but how you are living. So implied in it is your lifestyle, is your choices, decisions, and relationships, as well as your vocation, the preoccupation. All of them are opportunities to make your parents proud. It seems to me also that it is important to live in a way that builds on the foundation that have been provided for you. Now let me spend a little bit of time on this because I think this is the key. I don't know if we are the therapy generation. So every time you listen to people talk about their past, it's hard because they tell you how bad they abuse them with their child and so on. These are new experiences. I never know a school like what does it become? Kind of popular to talk about. I thought I was like barefoot went to school, yes. Didn't have lunch every day, yes. Walked to school rather than took the bus. But I thought I was fine. I didn't know anybody. Yeah, I thought you were running from my life. But nowadays, with folk, you know, and especially when it comes to your father. I mean, you encourage people to talk now, and they don't even mention their father. Sometimes they are mentioned, like went to the Church of God girls' home, and there is an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, or two sisters in the home. I was talking to the 12-year-old because she looked like she's 8-year-old, except, you know, when she's talking, you can see she's a big woman and a little girl, but you cannot tell big woman. So I asked her about her mother. She said that her mother lived in St. James. No, the first thing she said is that she lived in South Canada, towards the end of it. So I asked her where. And, you know, she beat around the bush a little bit and she said she actually don't know, you know. So her way, she speaks very nicely. So she said her mother was in St. James, but she didn't know tell you so. She was very in St. James. She didn't know. And I said, so how often does she know? She said, well, I already put her on practice. And then I asked her about her father. And she said, well, ask him. I don't know whether he's dead or alive. Right. But that is the narrative that affects men. We're very comfortable talking. In fact, you are embarrassed to be a good father. Because when you talk, you know, people talk and you say, oh, my father, you know, came to parents to tell me, people say, what? Where you come from? It doesn't matter, however, how poor a start you have. One of the things you must do is carry your family. Carry them forward by your ambition and by you can contribute to the problem, to the curse. Honor them. They were poor people. They could barely read, go to college. Some of them never saved, you saved. Some of them never foreign, you were over here. Build on that. And you know, sometimes I try my best not to put the burden on my children to the Garnett Roper. They must live their own life. You know, and they must not, you know, but my son called himself Garnett Roper. That is his name. If I were here, I would use it. Don't know what he's taking out. But I think, and so I don't put them burden kind of live up. They're not competing with it. What they must do is stand on my shoulder and get to where they can. But they must pull me up. And my pride is not to see that they got A's or that they went here. It's that they live their life to the best or to the fullest. And this is what we must do. And we're not talking only in quantitative terms. It's not money we're talking about. It's not how many rooms in your house. You build all a house, you pay rent, and you come here. You go far, you must say the country. And then you build a house. And you say, no, I don't have to do it forward. They love their homes. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about quality. And by all means, to provide them an honorarium. I think we think that honorarium is a metaphor for honor. It's honor that is a metaphor for honorarium. So to honor your parents means you must try and give them a little bit when you're old. So all they do, I have the money you old, that little bag of groceries you carry, they imply you must know who they are. And let me tell you something. You see homelessness in our society. Plenty of them are people with children who are embarrassed to come back. Right? When the further east you go, the fewer people you see on the street. For like China, right? They live with their children and with their grandchildren till they die. We put them in homes. And sometimes we can't find out them. We don't put them out of our home. For them to come back. So I'm saying that there is a demand from this woman that we provide an honorarium for all. So that it takes it. So to honor your parents is a critical instrument of morality, stability, and of prosperity. That's what you have. That's what you are. That's what is required of us. And there is a verse in the book of Luke, not a very popular verse, but a very important one, where Jesus is mocking the Pharisees. And the Pharisees say that their money is korban, which is Aramaic for dedicated to God. And once they are, the money is put up for God's word, they want to look after their parents, that the money devoted to God already, and Jesus rebuked them. Your job is to look after your well-being. Your job. And if you get to the time, trust me, I've seen it happen, where you have to adjust your career to simply take them over. That will become illness and suffering. And that's a very independence. This is the structure that we start. All religion has become a religion of words, and noise game, singing and dancing. In the trenches of life, it is found for us. We are not a robust people, or moral commitments are superficial, they're not deep and deeply. And this reflection that we are doing, starting with the demand to avoid the corrosive and divisive and addictive trait of covetousness, or of talking about building a society that is fair and just, that is fruitful and lasting, a society that has a future because it is approximating God's idea of harmony and peace. End with the key, our families. Our families. You've heard me tell the story before that in counseling couples for marriage, I emphasize the idea of a common meal. So that I tell them that find one meal per week. Maybe Friday night if that is your family time, Saturday morning. I prefer Sunday afternoon myself. And I tell them that they are to have a slow meal, not a fast food meal, but a slow meal. Where somebody make the vegetable and somebody else make the drink and somebody else watch the food and so on. And for this meal, the telephone and television must be off. Telephone and television are non-personal members of your household. You know that when people not get along, they use the telephone and the television to get with each other. It's what I should want to get that. That's what you do. But you turn them off, and then you talk to one another, tell the stories of the week, of the past. That's how you construct a family. That's how you build a relationship. And you know, the lesson really came to me. Some years ago, I was in Washington, D.C. I had been attending a course at the Ivy class for 3 weeks. And I can't cook everybody, but I can buy food. So I decided that each evening I would buy food at a different ethnic restaurant. So there are a lot of them in Washington. You get a Chinese, you get a Korean, you get a Vietnamese, you get a Pakistan, India, and so on. So I was going to Yama. This week was very coming well into the time. And I had gone to Barnes and Noble, my favorite idea then of shopping, which is a bookstore. And I looked out the window and saw a watch store. And remember that one of my children had told me that I must bring them back a watch. So I went across to this watch store, and there was a lovely looking Ethiopian girl, about 20 years old at the time. She had a black and brown locks, I remember. had seen the board in class before. So I thought it was a marvelous time. So I got into conversation. And then she discovered that I was from Jamaica, and I went across the pond and bought her book on Bob Marley, and she said for her. She gave me a key. So then I said to her, I'm trying to eat at a different ethnic restaurant. Is there an Ethiopian restaurant? And she said, there was. In fact, there was one just down the street. But she said, they speak Arabic. So you have to order, and many people in Arabic speak Ethiopian. So I would have to go with her. So I would go. She was trying to take for a day, and I would go to this restaurant. And I was there, where she ordered stuff. I was going to pay. And then they came. We stopped. And one thing. And I thought about it, this is very funny. One place. And she could see the star looking through in my eyes, a train look about 3 o'clock. And she explained, she said, that's how we eat. That's how we eat. So she said, it's not just one plate of bread, the plate is the bread. So when you finish, you eat the plate too. And she says, that's how we eat. She says, for example, in my family, there are 5 of us brothers and sisters and my parents. And I said, but in order to eat out of one plate, you have to eat at the same time. I said, yes. And I was there imagining to myself, I said, let's suppose meat. You can't just take it out of the plate. You never remember that there are 7 and 6 others. And then it struck me, I said, well, what if you're upset with somebody? If you're upset with somebody, the last thing you do is eat with them. You didn't know that? No, say, I'm eating hungry. And it struck me that this is exactly why the Lord left us the Lord's Supper as our communal meal. You can't eat out of one plate without eating together, without considering the other person, and without getting along with the other. And what the commandments are intended here to do is to make the family the locus of moral development and spiritual. So, our way to fight the world. And there are deep issues facing the society. Deep issues. You may gloss them over in a newspaper, article, or on television and so on, but the society that we live in is at the closest it can come to utter destruction. None of this is spiritual. None of this is. And these vibes started, try and watch it. You don't know whether to auditorium will agree to take the money and go to it. You don't know whether to go there. What we know is that society is at odds with this thing called murder. Somebody has slaughtered a man. But it's okay, I don't know. We have to begin to take the society back from the beginning. And the family is a key, absolutely key instrument. Read again chapter 5. What I'm saying is your family, not whether you have one now, that is your wife and children, but your family, your parents, your household is a key place. You have to obey the past like this. You have to respect, but above all, you must honor them and living your life in a way that makes them proud. Standing on their shoulders, pulling them up with building on the foundation that has been laid, however flimsy, Even if you had a bad father, be a good son. By all means, put yourself in a position to look after them. Don't let them go to the grave in disgrace and ignorance. When you do that, you will enjoy long life on the land of your peace. This is what makes the world work. This is what makes the world work. Why we are so poor and black is that we start over every generation. If your father started a shop, your mother send you a town to go school. You might hire some little girl, next thing you know, you fool on the little girl, and the little girl will start to advise for the running. Next thing you come back, the shop lock up. It's so it works. The kind man sleep upstairs with his family. He is the cashier. But next 2 weeks, he have a supermarket, and after that, he have a supermarket. Every generation starts. Over time, to make our generation a foundation. Start with the start with the family. Treat your old people good. That you are days will be long of the Lord. Lord, we all have families. Not all of us are proud of our families. But all of us can honor them and making them proud of the honorable lives we live. All of us can build upon what we have, however small. And all of us can put ourselves in a position to give us the grace to see how that becomes the way to build a lasting future. Pray with us.